Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant, episode number 24, the date of 3rd of April 2023. And today we have an absolute cracking episode lined up for you. My name is Aaron Patrick, as always, and with me today is my co-host. Now, if we think back to last week when he came back off holiday, we were kind of all thinking to ourselves, will he come back? Is this it? Is he? But this time, I'm surprised you're here. Now you've hit the big time. So for anyone who don't know, you've decided that, LinkedIn has been your absolute social media place of choice this week, or this year, should I say, 2 years, however long it's been. You were on the, the LinkedIn Masterclass. You got a shout out on there by Intuit. AJ was putting you as this is how you should run your LinkedIn profile. So well done on that one. And then it came out today that you've gotten the Curly Whirly shout out as well. 509 followers in 1 month. You actually got your own personal shout out on there as well. So, Mr. Superstar, welcome to the show. Thank you humbly for joining us today. How are you doing, Jan?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Aaron. I'll send you the bill and the bill for any signatures you need me to do because, they're now autographs. But yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. Not a bad start to the week to find out you're going to have some curly whirlies in the post. I'm quite happy with that. I'll just have to hide them from the wife. But yeah, no, I'm very well. Thank you. How are you?
Very, very well. We had a good Formula One yesterday. Some of us woke up and watched it. Others decided to bother, and we'll leave it at that.
I was just a bit confused. Like, why is my alarm going at 6:45 on the morning of a Sunday? Woke up, my alarm's going. I'll turn that off. That's obviously wrong. Now wake up about 7:15. And go, oh, it was for the F1.
There was something I had to wake up for.
Yeah.
But now we've got a long wait, haven't we? Got all the way to the end of the month now. So
4 weeks of nothing.
But don't worry, we'll be around to give you all your news about accountants. That's something that's kind of relevant.
We'll give you as gripping a news and insight as what the F1 pundits give you about F1.
Exactly. All right, as I said, we've got a cracking show. We've got a brand new software being launched, so we want to talk about that, and it's got some very impressive names behind it, so we're going to talk about that one. Accountancy news hit the mainstream. So, yeah, we're going to talk about how the mainstream news has been talking about accounting and how that can affect our clients. VAT had an important birthday on April the 1st. So, was it April Fool's? Was it not? Speaking of April Fool's, some of the vendors got involved. So we'll talk about some of the April Fool's jokes that were being sent out there. And then finally, we're going to talk about how there's a little bit of Accountex excitement going on. So we'll talk about that as well. As always, if you have any questions, and don't forget to use the link, we're going to put that into the question box now. So that gives you the opportunity to jump in and ask some questions. If you're listening to us live, then also put some comments in. We've got Paul in there. Hello, Paul. Good morning. Hand pink waving. So, yeah, great to see that one. Ashley, it's Monday. Yay. Hi, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, Ashley. And just so you know, Ashley, we're about to launch our recommended podcast podcast services. So you're definitely on that list. So looking forward to pushing your name some forward. And then Sam's there as well. What a big timer. Yeah, he certainly is. It's just an honor and a privilege to have him on the show these days. You know what I mean? How long until he gets snapped up by the bigger podcasts in the world? But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Awesome. All right. So let's start off with that first new bit of news that we've got to talk about. We have the big news that there is a brand new software on the horizon called Translucent. It raises £2.7 million to solve multi-entity accounting. Now, as soon as I read that, as soon as I saw the word multi-entity accounting, All it reminded me of was your shopping list, Johann, at the start of the year. You're like, right, this is the year that I'm going to go around and I'm going to solve my issue of group accountants and group companies and how they're going to be. And bless QuickBooks, they came up with a solution for you, didn't they? They were like, look, here's a solution. It's going to solve all your problems, Johann. Don't you worry about it. We've got it solved. And then they mentioned the word Excel and you went completely off. And in fairness, the solution doesn't quite work as intended. But, you know, given the dues, they tried to solve that problem for you. But maybe translucent is the solution for you. Translucent, the accounting platform solving the everyday finance problems of multi-entity business, has raised £2.7 million. But I think the bit that's really exciting for people involved. So we've got the former CTO of Xero, Craig Walker. Okay, that's big. The former managing director of Xero, Gary Turner. And then we've got directors on the board from Go Cardless, from Carbon, from Libio, from Nishan, from HubDoc, and from Cashflow. So forget anything else that's happening. This seems like, we'll go into what it does in a bit, but just having those sort of names on board, this should be something that people should be thinking about, shouldn't it, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of the features or how competent a bit of software is or isn't, just having those names on the board inspires hope that this might actually do what it says on the tin. So yeah, no, there's some big names there, and it's definitely piqued our interest, hasn't it, as to what are they going to quite deliver. I'm always a bit dubious. Will these famous names do well the second time round, or have they not quite moved on with the industry as the industry's moved on? But yeah, my only concern really with Translucent is how much need there is in the industry as a whole. I'd argue, yeah, there's plenty of big firms out there that are going to need this. Yeah. But how many of the smaller firms and practices are needing something that ties in multiple companies into one group reporting feature? So whilst on one hand you think, yeah, they're niching, that's fantastic. On the other hand, you're thinking that's a limited market. And those boys are hard to get into. Like if you speak to any software account manager, salesperson, whatever their role and title is, getting into the big accounting firms to get your software there and to demo it to the right people is a tough sell.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to take those kind of big names to be able to open the doors, because otherwise you're going to be demoing it to a layer of management that's about 6 steps away from any decision makers. And that's the challenge that Xero and QuickBooks and Co face, trying to get their cloud software across to the bigger firms and to get them on board, is because there's so many layers of almost defense from the decision makers that you have to spend years working through and building up the rapport to get them to say, yes, okay, we'll roll this out. And then they roll it out to a few, and then you've got to prove it. And it's not a quick cash making method at all. So it's going to be challenging for them. But if anyone's going to be able to achieve that, it's names like that in the industry. So it's an interesting tool. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like for majority of our client base, this isn't going to be, groundbreaking for them, especially with everything that's happening with the budget and the fact that, if anything, we're telling clients to get rid of their group structure at this point. Not, it's, get back to basics and just have the one trading company if you can sort of idea. Because the more companies you have, the worse your tax bill is going to be, unfortunately, at this point in time. So it is definitely something that I can see doesn't appeal to the mainstream of what our clients are going to be. But even someone like Bofix, like we manually have to do all this stuff. We manually have to do it. Yeah, we're trying to be clever with it. We use Google Sheets so that it all feeds into one to bring our group structure together and all that sort of stuff. We are trying to build something to make it easier on ourselves, but we're in a privileged position where we can do that. We can build it for most people, and for ease of use and for just wanting to roll it out for clients, there isn't going to be that flexibility and that ability to do that. So I'm excited. I think, as always, the thing that makes or breaks them is how easy it's going to be for connecting these companies together. And you look at QuickBooks, for example, their API, it's never, it's not always that reliable. There's certain times where it drops, and if you're having systems like this where you're relying on that, then it's going to make or break is going to be that connection with API. But again, with the sort of names that we've got here, I'd completely missed as well. Michael Wood, CEO of is the CEO who's co-founder, or was formerly a co-founder of Dex. They're involved as well. You'd hope that having that sort of influence could be an opportunity for us to finally get these APIs sorted, finally getting those sort of elements, and Zero, QuickBooks, Sage, and everything else starts following suit and actually starts upping their game in terms of helping developers and helping connection to the software. Because that could be, for me, with such a huge kind of solution being built here, and all this backing, hopefully that should have enough influence to start pushing that on, where in the nice possible way, the smaller firms and smaller companies out there like Client Engagement, they don't have that say as much, do they? No. Whereas we have an opportunity here, hopefully, to change it for everyone.
Yeah, and ultimately, I'm speculating here, but I'm going to say this is probably not going to be a cheap bit of kit. They've not got any prices on or anything at the moment. We'll talk about that in a minute, though. But the silver lining is, as you say, that if this probably expensive bit of kit comes along and starts breaking down some barriers, forcing softwares to improve their APIs, then the likes of other tools can come along and potentially take advantage of those barriers being broken down and deliver a cheaper, more affordable solution. So yeah, I mean, SIF Analytics does do a very good job at pulling in and consolidating companies. Silverfin does a good job of pulling in and consolidating companies. But it sounds to me like the AI is the real power here. But then Sift and Analytics launched their AI tool last week. So it'll be interesting to see what the AI does and how that goes forwards.
Yeah, for me, I don't know what else this can do that's going to really evolutionize the area, if you like you said, where we've already got some players in there doing an okay job and doing, filling the gaps and everything else. I'm yet to see what Translucent is going to bring to the table that's completely going to change it. I feel like there's something there that we're missing, or they've not talked about, or that they're not ready to show at this point in time. But I still feel like there has to be something there that's making such a big influx in terms of funding, in terms of these people being involved. I think there's something there that they're obviously not telling the public, and I think that's when the interesting thing is going to come along. You mentioned pricing. We're looking at there is a free plan that's available today for unlimited entities. How long that's free for, we don't know. We think this is you mentioned post-show that pre-show should say that you think this is more of a chat GPT sort of idea. Let's give it for free. Let's get them sticky, and then charge them something later down. That only assumptions here, but that would be a sensible pricing model to adopt. And then there is a paid plan for 119 USD per month, which is, it's weird how it's USD. Am I missing something here when it's a UK-based, London-based company charging USD?
Or does that tell you the audience where they think the majority of their audience is going to be is the US? If if you're looking at the UK where group structures are struggling more because of the current tax rules, etc., maybe they've said actually, and also they've looked at it and they've gone, well, actually trying to break into the UK market because we've got to get through these high barrier to entry accounting firms. Maybe they've said actually the US is going to be a bigger and easier target for us to nail, and then we'll keep an eye on the UK and we'll keep pushing it, but we expect the US to be where the real consumer base is for now.
Yeah, no, you're probably spot on that one, actually. Question then. So I suppose it's a bit of a, when we look at the landscape of app development at the moment, if you look at the very beginning of this year, it was very much doom and gloom, wasn't it? It's like, look, we're going through COVID, we've had the MTD delays, there's the word recession was being bandied around. It looked very, very much like that the app development scene and the vendors and everything else were going to be scaling back, not growing in the sector. And there was going to be very much, we've had news after news lately, haven't we, of layoffs, and we've had all the shutdowns, we've had all the negativities come with it. Then suddenly translucent come along, people like Client Engager are going from strength to strength. It almost feels like for the right app at the right time, there does seem to be a resurgence at this point in time. Do you think that's fair, or do you think we're still in a bit of doom and gloom?
I think it depends where you look. I mean, I think if we look at the likes of Carbon and Zero, where they've made layoffs, etc., things aren't great. You kind of think, well, if you look at how they've worked for the last few years, they've been riding this bubble of investment.
Yeah.
The moment the economy struggles, those bubbles pop or deflate in some manner, leading to problems and gaps in cash flow, etc. So they need to make big, hard choices. Would a more sensible management approach that was more based on delivering returns for investment have been a better choice for Zero and Carbon? And would that have then led to not so many issues in the last 3 months for them? Maybe they outgrew and didn't quite get the performance they were expecting from it. But I think if you've got the right product with the right ethos at the right time, you'll do well. Like Client Engage is doing well because all the big brands have been brought up recently and seem to have basically stopped development. Or they're just redeveloping what they've already got, and it's like, well, that's not really helping anyone. Whereas we've come in with Client Engager and we've said, look, we're going to listen to you. We put polls out on social medias for you to vote on what's important, and we deliver that. It's not just done for the sake of doing it. Whereas some companies have in the past have asked for opinions and they ignored it because that's not what they want to do. So yeah, coming in with the right ethos and the right tool at the right time will always, even in doom and gloom, will always do well. Look at any recession. Look at COVID. We had a surge of, what is it? QuickBooks call them. Is it COVIDpreneurs or something?
Oh, yeah.
All these people that went from enjoying working from home in their job to, right, I've got to go back to the office. I'm going to sack that off and I'm going to just go self-employed. Like, whenever there's a crash of some sort or economic challenges, yes, we're going to see established businesses start to struggle, but then we're going to see the shoots of new business come through that. So yeah, I think there's always a positive news story out there. We just need to find it. There we go. AJ's just said they were the lockdown startups. So yeah, I think we have got challenges for the established big boys, and they are having to make some tough choices. But things like that always make it easier for new and startups to come along if they've got the right product. The question is translucent the right product for what the UK market needs? I would argue based on their pricing being in dollars, they probably aren't quite sure themselves, but they think it's going to be right for the US market.
Yeah, which makes sense, doesn't it? It does, having that opportunity to try and win the US market is going to absolutely be the right call for them, isn't it? And probably why they were able to get the investment so fruitfully is, the fact that they're targeting such a bigger market makes sense. My favorite part about this solution so far, if they're not calling it FMS, so I'm dead against FMS, so financial management system or bookkeeping solutions, whatever you want to call it. They're sticking to the guns and they're not calling it FMS, which is good to see. Is this too early for them to be at something like Accountex, or do you think that's going to be something later down the line for them?
We were chatting to Ash from NetTracker the other day, weren't we? And Accountex, none of these shows are cheap to be at. And when you're a startup business in this accounting software industry, you have to be really confident that when you go to something like Accountex and you make that financial investment, that it's going to deliver that return for you. I doubt we'll see these guys there because I don't think they've got a product to show us yet. Like, you know, when we sat down as a team at Client Engager and looked at conferences this year, we decided actually our product isn't where we want it to be before we show it off on a grand scale. Like, it's great doing our demos and the fact that we're booked up for demos for days and days at an end. But we know if we go to Accountex tomorrow or in May, we know all the feedback's going to, and all the objections, we can predict what they're going to be. Once we've got past those and we look at it and go, well, actually, there's nothing anyone's going to object to majority, or there's no question that's going to make people think whether it's worth signing up, that's when we'll go. And so I'd argue that for Translucent, they're probably far too early on. That they've got all these modules that they're talking about, which means that if they did go, they're probably going to do, this is what it is, here's some concept videos, and they're actually selling you the dream.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd argue over the last 5 years, accountants have become extremely wise and cautious to people selling the dream because, yeah, we've been sold the dream by too many softwares too many times in the last 5 years. So I think we've learned and we've been burnt enough times to go, well, that all sounds great. Talk to me when it's there.
And I feel like this is a really hard dream to sell as well, isn't it? Like, you're going to not be looking at every person who walks past Accountex. There's going to be a very minute portion of the Accountex crowd that's you're going to be singing to. It's like, it reminds me a lot of Silverfin, doesn't it? Like, they cracking product from what I can tell, and you know, it's definitely something that does do a lot of good things and seems to be very similar to Translucent, but it's very, very difficult to find who it's for. Like, at one point, I generally thought that, you know, Bofix was going to go towards that model at one point. I thought that's what we wanted to do, like almost aspire to get to a Silverfin kind of base so that we could, you know, we could get all the benefits from there. But it wasn't for us. It never will be for us. It is for a different breed. And I think that's going to be their trickiest bit, is trying to get that explanation of who is it for and where is it from. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went to... Where did I see the Silverfin? Accountex Glasgow, Accountex Scotland, back in the day, 2018, I think that was.
Yeah.
They only ever did it once because no one turned up. I think they had like 350 people over 2 days. But Silverfin were there. And I went and looked at their product, and it's going to do that, it's doing this, it's doing that, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. I mean, they told me back then, it's going to do corporation tax. They only launched that last week.
It was last week.
That's being sold the dream and not having it developed quick enough.
I swear that was Paul's joke when it came off. I thought, you've already released it, surely.
But then you say, right, this sounds brilliant. This sounds like something even my little practice at the time, it was me and one other person at the time, we could use this. This could make our lives a lot more efficient. How much is it? And I choked on my coffee when he told me. It's like, how much? So I couldn't. And then I said, right, so what happens when I go to this point? And the scalability was just inaffordable for us. So yeah, I would imagine they're better off going to, I don't know, without stereotyping the conferences, but I'd imagine they'd be better off going to like your ACCA conferences, the SEMA conference, places like that would have people that are management accountants and stuff in there, or chartered accountants that deal with group structures more, rather than going to Accountex where there's a too broad a range of circumstances there for you to really narrow in on.
I think that's a great shout, actually, because that's I was having a beer with a friend who's just gone into management accounting and everything else, and yeah, they're still using Excel. They're still using, you know, traditional ways of being able to do group structures. Where if they get this pricing right, I think you hit the nail on the head, because they're constantly acquiring other companies. They're constantly bringing new practices in. If they can just have one system that they just connect their FMS to, then at that point, then they'll be able to bring that in. And maybe you're right. Maybe they should be aiming it more at that that kind of you know, ecosystem and that kind of type of client, because I really do think you've got a point there. It would actually add a lot of benefit to them. And with all the AI and everything else there, then they can start making those decisions and they can start helping build that group structure up. So, okay, yeah, I can see that one. So I think that's all we've got to say at this point. I don't know about you, Johan. I've joined the early access, see if we can get access to it, see if we can have a look about it a little bit more, so have a play around, but we'll see how that goes going forward. Anything else you want to talk about Translucent before we move on?
No, I was looking at it this weekend. I've opted not to join the early access purely because I don't want to get my hopes up and get in there and find it's amazing and then see the pricing's just completely inaffordable. Yeah. So I will await their pricing for all these modules that they seem to be listing. Because again, prejudging them, but there's a lot of X0 people on there. So I can't imagine $119 is the only price you're paying. I imagine there'll be a price associated to every module that they want to bolt on, because that's how Zero was built. So I'll await the pricing for all the other modules, and then I'll have a look at how that works.
Sensible bit of advice. Okay, story number 2 then. Well, we had some news in the mainstream press. So we had Gary Lineker wins appeal over £4.9 million tax bill. Sports presenter Gary Lineker has won his appeal against HMRC over dreaded IR35. So basically, in a nutshell, he was at first told that, he's got this £4.9 million tax bill to pay because he was not within IR35. He argued that, well, hold on a minute, I am doing multiple contracts here. I work for multiple organizations, and why am I getting caught with IR35? And the appeal's gone through, and he's had he won his appeal, so we'll see how it goes from there.
From what I saw, wasn't he also trading for a partnership?
Yeah.
An IR35 subject to LTDs?
Yeah, I mean, that was his argument, wasn't it? That's how he's helped in the appeal.
Yeah, that HMRC should have just looked at that and go, oh, he's a partnership, we won't pursue.
Probably not worth getting egg on our face on this one. But it is important, isn't it? For many clients, I don't know about you, but we've got a lot of clients who are still very nervous over IR35. And, the principle of IR35, we could probably get behind in terms of let's crack down on those who were abusing the system. Let's crack down on the fact that people were just taking early retirement, then coming back as contractors, and just to put another couple of £1 million in their bank account. Yeah, they're the sort of things that we want to stop. But for the vast majority of freelancers and contractors out there who were legitimately just trying to get by, trying to get their business off the ground, and maybe over-reliance on one particular supplier, but that's just the way it was at the time, they shouldn't have been penalised by I-35. So the fact that we've got a high-profile case, and hopefully this case is going to go the way of, not HMRC, and, common sense prevails, then hopefully, fingers crossed, that should help, down to the smaller one, shouldn't it?
It should. I mean, there was a coverage this weekend about that case again, saying that Gary Lineker's still got to foot a £400,000 legal bill. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather pay £400,000 out than the 4-point-something million that the HMRC wanted. It's a less of a kick in the teeth. But in this case, as it stands at the moment in the courts, HMRC pursued him wrongly. Should he now have to foot? Should he have had to spend that kind of money because HMRC don't understand their own rules? Like, at what point does it go from, like, if he'd been found not guilty of tax evasion, but it was looking like he was trying to evade tax, then fine, he pays his own legal fees. But this is HMRC pursuing a partnership for breaching rules that don't relate to partnerships. That's incompetence on HMRC's part. Should he have to then pay £400,000 to defend himself from their incompetence? At what point do you draw a line?
Yeah, it doesn't seem right at all, doesn't it? It doesn't seem that should be the way. But I think what this really does show to me is, like, IR35 in a nutshell is always going to just be lingering around, is always going to be a problem. And I think HMRC themselves need to really think about what the criteria is. It's too wishy-washy. It always has been. That's always been the criticism of it. like you've said there, they don't even know the rules themselves. They haven't, they haven't got this one right, and they've, by the looks of it, gone down a whole court case that should never have happened in the first place. But it just feels like if we'd had from day one, like, here are the criteria, if you earn this, or if you have that, if it was related to this, if there was this really straightforward black and white, and I know it's difficult because I know it's a really complex area, but if they had predefined rules, and if you cross that rules or you cross that threshold, then you're caught, that would have made things easier, wouldn't it? Whereas now, more than anything, it's just cost a lot of money in compliance, a lot of money in clients having to take up advice and all that sort of stuff. It's consulting costs that have gone through the roof because people are now worried, and there's question marks, and there's all this question. IR35, if I got £1 for every time I said the word IR35, I wouldn't need an accounting practice. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. We're having to bring it up in every single conversation. And I just feel like it shouldn't be like that. It should just be very to the point, very simple, and we wouldn't have these sort of cases and these sort of issues and problems. So, yeah, fingers crossed. This hopefully is the start of, if HMRC gets enough egg on their face, hopefully start, bringing it back a little bit and trying to rethink what IR35 should have been.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But we still, one of our next articles is that VAT is 50 years old. But we're still seeing week after week cases where HMRC win and lose cases around what is and isn't vatable. I mean, they've not sussed that in 50 years. IR35 is what, 5 years old at a push? We've got another 45 years before they even get close to working out what this means.
Yeah, exactly right. And as you said, VAT is now 50 years old. I saw on LinkedIn some really good things. Like Chris Downing, our first We Have Cool Friends, he put a brilliant little post up. Do you see that one with the birthday cake? And
yeah, I made comment about it, of how do we, because I can imagine the conversation happening of we're going to do a little birthday cake, we're going to light the candles. What's the one thing that lets you down when you light candles on a birthday cake? It's either the matches or the lighter doesn't work. So how do they solve this? Chris brings in a blowtorch. That solved the problem. But I did like it was green.
They missed a trick. They should be Sage branded.
Yeah.
That could be very cool. The new what you call it? The new merch for Accountex 2023. Blowtorches.
Oh, can you imagine the after party?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
That would be a disaster waiting to happen.
They'll get it through HR somehow, or PR even. So yeah, I mean, 50 years of VAT. I think for me though, I think the thing that made me kind of question or brought to light was how MTD VAT was such the big issue, wasn't it? It was such the buzzword and everything. And now it's just, as HMRC say themselves, it's the norm now. It's how it should be. And I think that's kind of shows you like how in 50 years it hasn't changed all that much, has it really? I know there's been rules and there's been schemes and everything else, but the principle of it and how it works hasn't really changed other than MTD. And even then, yes, it was a big thing at the time. Yes, it was this big palaver, but now it just feels like it's just one of those things, isn't it? And kind of goes from there. So yeah, did you see was there any other things on social or anything that caught your eye about the 50th anniversary, etc.?
No, I didn't realise VAT was that old, but then at the same time I thought maybe it's older. I don't know. It's an odd one. It's always been there. So yeah, no, I don't think there's anything. I was surprised to see the amount of coverage it got, if I'm honest. I think that was my biggest surprise, was how many people were celebrating and commenting that it was 50 years old. And it's like, really? I mean, I suppose it was a safe subject to discuss on April Fool's Day when, there were some other things going on. But I chose not to post on April the 1st because I just thought, is that a fool's joke? Is it not? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I thought, do I post in the afternoon because you're not meant to make April Fool's jokes after lunchtime? Or, it's like, no, I'm just avoiding it entirely. But yeah, it gave accountants and bookkeepers a safe topic to discuss on a day when not many topics were safe.
I mean, I would say on on the VAT. I was surprised that this wasn't because I wasn't aware that the 50th birthday was coming up. Completely honest with you, and I was surprised in the budget that there wasn't some mention of, well, this is the 50th anniversary, so let's put it to 25% or something. You know what I mean? Let's celebrate. Let's bring it in. But no, there was nothing, was there? It wasn't like it was not nothing was talked about it. So yeah, it was interesting to kind of see people getting excited about it and kind of putting some parts to it. And without VAT, we wouldn't have the solutions we have, would we? That we've got. So we do owe it to kind of the complexity around it, to why we've got the solutions we have and why vendors become so important to us. Imagine life without it, and we wouldn't have the quality of the solutions we have, wouldn't we? So yeah, it's good in that respect.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. All right. So then, speaking of April Fools, we had some April Fools shenanigans going on, as Johann rightly said. And I thought, let's put a bit of a roundup of some of the best points of it. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get the screenshot of this one, but my favorite post during during the April Fools was the fact that we had one member talking about how with the 5th of April coming along, that HMRC have just announced a U-turn on MTD, and it is going live on the 5th of April 2023, which I thought was absolutely brilliant and wouldn't have surprised me in the slightest if that actually was going to be the case. But yeah, so I thought that was a really good part. And then there was some of the vendors as well got in on the fun. So if I just quickly take this screen off and add to this one here. So the guys over at Linebooks, they decided to release their brand new innovation coming forward. So they're going to be, well, they were hinting the fact that their development of a eagerly anticipated solution where it's a little helmet that you wear, and with that helmet on, you don't need to use a mouse, keyboard, or anything else. All you do is you think about it, and Linebooks will make it happen for you. So that was a nice little thing. Now, have they stolen that from Client Engage? Is that on the pipeline? Was that Q1 2025?
No, that's not on our pipeline at this moment in time. Yeah, I think if I ask my development team to look at that, I think they might kill me.
I think it's a good idea, though. I mean, come on, if you've got the opportunity, would you walk around with something on your head so you can compile VAT returns for your clients? Is that a future you see yourself going down anytime soon?
I mean, I'm not fashion conscious, so that wouldn't be the obstacle, but I don't know. With the things that go through my head, when you're thinking of workarounds and stuff, do you want to risk thinking of, I wonder if I did it this way, would it do that? Do you want to run the risk of that entering into a tax return? Probably not.
Yeah, I can see your point on that one. WWDC is not far away, so if Apple were to release some sort of, solution like this, would that even tempt you? I mean, is that going to, if it had an Apple logo on it, would that change your mind?
It would help, wouldn't it? The problem is, I can imagine that with an Apple logo on it, it's not going to be a cheap bit of kit.
No. I mean, what they've said their VR solution is now $4,000 or something.
Yeah, bargain.
Well, yeah, even the super fans are worried a little bit about that one. And then what else happened on April Fools? Well, Xero, I think they did it a little bit too early, but they released their new talk, didn't they? They said their new feature was coming live in Xero Go. Did you hear that one?
I did hear this one.
Yeah, so we were all expecting the bank accounts and everything else, but they put a reporting feature in Xero Go. So there must have been some sort of date miss there. That was definitely the 1st of April and released on the wrong day, wasn't it? Right? That's correct.
Yeah, but someone put on one of the Facebook groups I'm in, saying they've just had an update, saying from Xero about Xero Go now having reporting features. Has anyone used Xero Go? What's it like? Well, I mean, my comment was the first one saying, look, I'm not the biggest fan of QuickBooks Self-Employed, and it takes a hell of a lot to make QuickBooks Self-Employed look good, but these guys have nailed it. And then followed a tirade of, Xero's feedback on this is not positive. Everyone ripping it apart. And it wasn't like on a QuickBooks group or anything like that. It was on a generic group. And even some of the biggest QuickBooks Zero fans out there were ripping it apart. So, yeah, fair to say that person is not going to go and trial it.
No, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, we spoke about it at length over on QuickBooks Labs, didn't we? But yeah, I mean, they really should have released it on the 1st of April, because yeah, to say that that's their new big feature dump is a bit of a worry, really, isn't it, for the future development of that software? And they need to. Then, like, if that's going to be their new focus, we had this on. We had Cool Friends, didn't we, 2 episodes ago, where we had the conversation that it was all about their new focus is on smaller. Like, they want to double down on small business. They want to make that their new push. And if they haven't got the software to do that, that ain't going to happen, is it? So, you know,
Nope.
they're not prepared to jump for the higher end like QuickBooks have with QuickBooks Advance, and, you know, thrown headfirst into there, and they're going from strength to strength with that. Well, if Zero's not going to jump on that bandwagon, then yeah, it's going to fall down, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I see Andy Wainwright got fooled, bless him. So Andy was convinced from a post on LinkedIn that self-employed year ends would align with those of companies, i.e. the 31st of March. He was extremely excited because QuickBooks and Xero don't handle the 5th of April as a financial year end very easily. Only to find out it was an April Fool's joke. So he was absolutely fuming that grown adults are doing this on LinkedIn. Nowhere safe.
Nowhere safe. Nowhere safe. Nowhere safe. No, unlucky on that one, Andy. I mean, that would be a solution for everyone, though, wouldn't it? I mean, that's what, when we come back to what we wanted for MTD, and MTD for ITSA coming along, that was one of our wish lists, wasn't it? Let's bring 31st of March or even 31st of December as a new year end. So yeah, that's unfortunate for that one. But anything else you saw on the 1st of April? Any other ones that took your eye? Was there anything else we missed?
Nothing for the global audience, as it were. I mean, I live in Edinburgh, and there was a post up saying that they were now going to extend the trams to Portobello, which is the area I live near. If you live in Edinburgh or near Edinburgh, you'll know the trams are a bit of an ongoing challenge due to the fact that it takes them 10 years to build anything, and everything because they have to close all the roads around that area they're building it. Everything shuts down, and all the businesses go bust, and then new businesses come in just in time for the trams to open. So there was uproar about that, only for everyone to realise it was an April Fool's joke. So, yeah, I mean even the posts, though, that had hashtag April Fools on, people were falling for. It's like, but it's telling you at the end, hashtag April Fools.
Yeah. And even people were messaging their team, getting all excited about the new announcements, weren't they? Oh, sorry, Andy. Yeah, as Andy says here, you know, he messaged his whole team to get them excited. But so my question on April Fools then is this something that, you know, because QuickBooks Zero, they rightfully probably stayed away from it. They didn't have any, you know, didn't use the opportunity to get any more social media engagement or anything like that. But is that right? Is it something they should have a bit of fun with, or do you think they're too big? You know, what
you see, Elgato did a video.
Yes, yeah, brilliant.
So Elgato launched their home range of the Stream Deck cushion and the Elgato logo mat, etc. And it was really obvious that it was an April Fool's joke. And I think that's fine. I think what you have to make sure, though, is it is obvious that the more gullible amongst us don't fall for the trap and believe the tax year end moved. Like, I always think any serious business with any serious information to be announced would avoid the 1st of April, because it's dodgy territory. But I think if companies are going to do stuff that potentially sounds almost real, they need to make it really obvious at some point in that conversation, in that post, that it is an April Fool's joke. I mean, it doesn't help everyone, as I say. Like, hashtag April Fool's was used on a lot of stuff. There's a guy called Neil on LinkedIn. Last week he won 2 awards. So on April Fool's Day, he announced he was selling up and quitting it with immediate effect. And there was a hashtag April Fool's, but even people on that post links was falling for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how obvious do you need to make it, and is it worth the potential damage to your brand to be involved in it? I suppose it's a very, very fine, balanced judgment call on that.
Yeah, and like in fairness, Andy, like, and people like who have fell for these ones, it's because sometimes it's because that's what you want to hear it, don't you? And if you're going to go down the joke of trying to give them what they want, you know, it's like, you know, Zero actually generally on the go saying, "Oh, we're going to release, bank connections for Zero Go, April Fools." That would not go down well at all, would it? Let's be honest. You know, but if it was something that actually people, you know, can generally see, because well, how many times have we mentioned line books in the show before? You know, once or twice, maybe that's it. But no, they did something clever. They went out of their way a little bit. They put something out there that caught people's attention, and I think that works. And I think that's a bit of playfulness. I think it's you know, it only on April Fools, and if you keep it to that point, I think it's quite clever, and I think it's quite a nice little way of doing it. So I was just surprised that not more of them jumped in it. I assumed myself that someone like Cresco or something might have gone down that little route and might have thrown something, a little curveball out there. But yeah, that's what I was expecting more of the vendors to get involved as opposed to, you know, the rest of the kind of industry. But yeah, we'll see what happens next year, and maybe Client Engager can do something a bit funky with it next year. You never know. Yeah,
who knows?
Timesheets, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Imagine you said you're going to release timesheets.
We were very careful on Saturday. Like, we wanted to announce that we are launching a client-facing app, so I got that in last thing Friday night on the socials because I didn't want it landing on the Saturday morning.
And then the question, yeah,
and then like on the Saturday, I did spend quite a bit of time doing videos, but I was happy where we were posting those. That wasn't going to cause any April Fool's beliefs. So yeah, it is a fine balanced thing, and it is great to have a bit of fun with it. But you do have to judge it correctly.
You certainly do. You certainly do. Right. Well, we're in April. Not long now to go until May. And what happens in May? Yeah, May. To check myself. We've just got over a month to go. Why am I saying that? Why am I holding up? Because we have Accountex 2023. Unfortunately, I had to put mine up. I couldn't find yours there, Johan. But yeah, we have the opportunity to come and see us live on the 10th. It is 10th of May, isn't it, that we're going live?
It is.
At 5 o'clock. And there'll be also a lot of other people there as well. So it's all been announced. Everyone's getting hyped up about Accountex 2023. What about you, Anne? You're prepared for it now? You're set up?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to doing the 5 o'clock show with yourself live to our audience. That'll be fantastic. And then I think I'll be doing some bits with QuickBooks and stuff as well. So it's going to be a busy 2 days as always, but it's always a fantastic 2 days to be part of. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we're up against some titans of the podcasting world as well, aren't we? So
yeah, the schedulers have not been kind.
Yeah, we're going to say this now, which is probably the worst thing we can do, because that means that the handful of people who were going to attend our shows now going to be aware of another one. But yeah, we're up against a cruel world, digital tools in a cruel world. So, that's and the worst part about that is generally that was one of the ones I was looking forward to. I was like excited to go over and watching that one. So yeah,
I think you want to be the audience for that one.
Yeah. Maybe we cut out short and we just go over and we'll take everyone with us.
Or we could do a live reaction show to their show.
That's an amazing idea. Brilliant idea. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah. No.
But yeah, no, we are up against some heavy hitters of the industry there. But yeah, either way, it's another episode of content for us, isn't it? So we're winning. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the 2 days. The list of speakers and sessions they've got going on, this is going to be huge. Like, it's got to be the biggest one yet.
I would say so.
And by a long way. How anyone's going to fit in everything they want to see and do in those 2 days, I don't know.
Yeah, because they haven't released like the table or anything of when things are coming out for us to know who we're up against. We literally had to go through that list and just look and see what sort of times and stuff and keep an eye on them. And that list just kept going. I was literally there scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
I mean, first of all, hats off to Accountex. I'm not just blowing smoke up their backsides because we're there, but the fact that they have taken on so many like podcast shows to present live at their event, that's incredible, because that's, you know, QuickBooks had a few podcasts recording there at QuickBooks Connect. Accountex are continuing with that on a much bigger scale. I think it's brilliant that these conferences have recognized the value that podcasting is bringing to the industry, and is giving them an audience to have the opportunity to have a live audience there. I think that's fantastic. If the awards ceremonies can start taking into account the fact that podcasts are bringing value, that'd be even better. But yeah, hats off to Accountex. I think they're at the forefront of delivering the value content that their visitors are going to be looking for. And hopefully it will bring more people into the event for them. But yeah, it's going to be a busy 2 days. I know, like, I'm speaking to QuickBooks about, they want me to do some sessions, and they're like, they've made sure that I can commit to 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon on both days. It's the same session. I've just got to deliver it 4 times. Yeah, because they are that conscious that people are going to struggle to get to things that aren't repeated. So yeah, no, I think it's going to be a huge event. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've kind of committed ourselves to quite a lot anyway already, as you said.
Don't we always?
Well, yeah, but also we've got to be mindful of what we want to get out of it, because we already know there's some vendors we want to talk to. We've already kind of got that in the pipeline, haven't we? And we've got those sort of things as well. So yeah, it seems like 2 days seems like a lot, but actually it flies by, doesn't it? We just end up, like, if QuickBooks Connect said anything to go by, literally we blinked and it's all over. We've just got to kind of go with it. I suppose the benefit of Accountex this time, or has always been, is the fact that what I do like about it is that because it's that 2 day event and you've got that kind of that night in between it, that's always a good time to kind of reflect and talk and have an opportunity to catch up and everything else. And normally that's when you kind of get those commitments into the next day of going, right, actually, yeah, not heard of this vendor before, but let's have a chat with them, and then you go and see them. So that's why I think Accountex really works, is that 2 day event approach, isn't it? And having that opportunity to talk to them. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, as you said, you and I are busy. We're both doing different sessions. We've also got our own people that we want to go and see for our own firm's benefit. I've got 1 or 2 team members going down. I want to spend time with them while we're there. I've got meetings being lined up, ready to talk to software providers about linking into Client Engager. We've got so much going on that actually it will be those evenings in a more casual setting where the networking happens for me. So yeah, it's the evenings add huge value to the whole experience.
Definitely. Brilliant. All right. Well, we're definitely going to be looking forward to it. To be fair, with only a month to go, it's a little bit scary at that point, isn't it? And then straight after that, we've got just accounting show, and then it just keeps on going. But I think that'll be enough for today. Just make sure there's been no more questions been asked. We're good on that one. So that's it. That's a wrap. Don't forget, we go live each Monday, 8:30 a.m. So if you do have any questions you'd like to use that question box that we've stuck in the in the chat before, and I'll just put another one in there as well. So if you are listening to us on the podcast service of your choice, then why not think about joining us live at 8:30? And if you do have a question, use the question that we've just linked below and put into the chat. Johann, have you got anything you want to push, promote, talk about for the rest of this week? Anything exciting going on?
Nothing that I can disclose.
That's always the problem. Yeah,
that's the problem. Yeah. There's some interesting things that hopefully I'll be able to talk about next week.
Awesome. We like to hear that one. For myself, we are filming another We Have Cool Friends, so keep an eye out for that one. I can't remember our backlog now, so I mean it's going to be good 4 weeks or so, isn't it, for that one?
Yeah.
So going down to London to record that one. So that'll be exciting. And also, I'm off to QuickBooks themselves, the HQ. We've got some,
Nice.
some again, NDA, etc. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to talk about that pretty soon as well. In fact, that should be talked about end of the month. So we'll be able to bring that one into play as well. Perfect time for QuickBooks, for Accountex as well, because it gives us some conversation topics in and around that one. So that is it for today. Thank you very much for everyone who came along and talked and messaged live. It's been great to see so many people of you active in the chat. And with that, we will see you again next week for the same time, same place. And that's it. So it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Cheers, everyone. Have a good one. Bye now.
Thank you.